and then hopefully more people come in the next 5 minutes to hear you speak.
No.
Hit the record button.
Already recording.
Awesome. So the audio is now being saved. Welcome, everybody. So there's a bunch of events coming up that I just wanted to let you all know about that I'm sure you know about already. Tomorrow is the colloquium. We need diverse books. It should be really exciting. The day after that, is that when the library crawl? Or is
No, that's Friday.
Friday, right.
Friday is the library call, which you can come whenever time. We have the schedule out. So if you're only able to come for one of the library visits or all of them, the schedule is there. And just, there you go. It's fun. All the different campuses, I think we're hitting all 4 of them.
Yeah, so essentially, if you guys don't know what that is, it's the Rutgers University Library Crawl. Hey, James. We have all the information. We send it out via email. It's also on the LISSA website and on Facebook as well.
Twitter. Yeah. I think we hit them all.
I just plugged it in my class.
Thank you.
There you
go. Let's see what else is going on. December. So we got the colloquium, the library call, and now I have
December 8th.
Well, December 3rd.
3rd.
NYPL is doing a really exciting job fair here. We're starting to promote it now. So they are currently hiring for children's, young adult, and adult librarian positions. You could be soon to be graduating or have the degree in hand already to be qualified. So it's a drop-in interview sessions from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. down at the student lounge.
And then the 8th is our last meeting for the semester, which that one's just more of a fun get-together. And then also the ALA Midwinter Conference is January 8th to the 12th. So sign up. If you are a student member, at this moment, it's $100 for the entire event, just for that conference, which is a really good price. And I think at the day of the event, the first day, it's $105. So even if you wait, it's fine. It's January 8th to the 12th.
And before that, there's one last event in the semester that Dr. Cohen is organizing in the department, the Mingle, which is happening December 14th from 6 to 8. It's a SE&Y event, just a fun way to get current students and alumni together to network. So that's going on December 14th.
And Carrie says Source is planning a trip to the National Archives at Philadelphia, probably in mid-December.
Oh, okay.
Oh, great. Ooh, good.
Lots of things going on.
Carrie.
And now, without further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker, Kim Adams. Kim is the current archivist at New Brunswick Public Library, as well as here at Rutgers University Special Collections and Archives. I did see your bio, and it was filled with interesting degrees and places you traveled.
Where did you see my
Samantha emailed me something. Yeah.
How did she get it?
It was tied to a project that you did at Rutgers once upon a time. And it listed where you went to school, your travels, and all these other exciting and interesting things.
I'm flattered, but
yeah.
startled.
So I figured you can start wherever you like.
Well, I didn't prepare anything. Samantha only told me I was doing this a few days ago, and it wasn't the best timing.
Well, thank you for agreeing to speak to us, though.
Oh, no, it's fine. Apparently, I was supposed to be a replacement for Isaiah Beard, who probably will do a wonderful job when he comes, and we should pay very close attention to what he has to say. Yes, I am the archivist, the archival librarian at the public library here, and when I work in special collections here at Rutgers, I'm actually working in the preservation lab most of the time, although I did curate the New Sweden part of the New Jersey Before the Revolution exhibit. And we do 2 things down there. We do exhibits, and you should all go over and see the 250 exhibit. The whole university was there. And we work on doing preservation things that border all the way down to nearly conservation. We don't have the resources or the expertise for deep conservation. And I do both jobs because I want to. I was here at Skills sometime, not too many years ago, maybe 5 or 6, as a mother returning to the workforce. I started out at the public library because I was reading all those job ads, and part of the reason I was reading the job ads is because I paid the mommy tax, where I was a suburban mother for 18 years, and then I went back to work and discovered I was practically unemployable because they didn't believe that mothers knew how to do anything. And I found that rather offensive, but there wasn't really much I could do about it. So I went back to school thinking I would do art history and become an art history librarian, and then I discovered archives, and I shifted somewhat. But in the process, I was reading these job ads, and they all wanted 3 years of experience. Well, you can't get the experience until you have the degree, so this didn't quite work. So I started looking at what was available, and I discovered a job over at the public library that seemed to suit me. I interviewed for it, and I was very careful. I didn't want to be pigeonholed because I didn't know which way I was going at that point. And they seemed to be saying that I could do whatever I want, and that's actually true. It's still true. So I started there, and then I took a course in preservation management with Evelyn Frangakis. And it was a wonderful course. I can tell you that 3 people in the class, including myself, thought we were in Eden, maybe. And the other 15 thought they were dying because Evelyn is a very special person at the New York Public Library where she does preservation. At that time, the person who runs the lab downstairs had a series of health issues, and Evelyn asked me if I'd like to help out down there. And I thought that would be for a very short time. Well, I'm still there. When I graduated, I said to myself, well, now it's time to get a real job. And I started looking at the jobs, and they looked awful to me because they did exactly what I didn't want, which was to pigeonhole me. So I'm still doing the 2 jobs, and I really like it very much. Now, that may not be an option for people who need health insurance and all that, but if you have a spouse that covers that, we're fine on the issues. How many of you are just going to be librarians?
Maybe.
How many?
Hoping to.
Archivists? 1 archivist. What else? Children's librarians?
Teen services.
Teen services?
I won't know yet. Hopefully something weird.
Oh, you want to be an archivist.
I'm interested, potentially, but I'm very interested in like info sciencey stuff, so I'm not, I'm not just limiting myself to libraries.
Okay, well, first of all, in terms of jobs in the real world, very few municipal libraries have archivists. In fact, the New Brunswick Library does not have archivists. They have reference librarians, and they have an archive, and I'm the first person who was ever an archivist there. So I'm what is called a lone arranger because I have full charge of the thing and no help whatsoever. So anyone who'd like to volunteer or be an intern or do a practicum, come and see me. I have lots for you to do. Archivists have a large range of jobs that they can do, big institutions and little ones. And if you're looking at that kind of job, you should look very carefully at what kind of institution it is and how you plug into that institution. It's also true for regular library activities. If you're interested in teen services, you have to make sure that it's what you want because you will be stuck doing that. And I've seen a number of librarians come into the library and decide they didn't like the little niche they were in and wanted to get out of it. But once you're in, you're kind of stuck there. So what kind of things do you want to know?
I was curious, what does New Brunswick Public Library have in their archives?
Well,
I didn't know they do have one. What is it?
First of all, it has a very good archive. Their mission is to collect local history. Mm-hmm. So primarily what we have is local history, but there are little extensions out from that, like local authors and things that end up in our archive because every archive ends up with things they don't want. So we have books, we have zillions of books, but we also have manuscripts and things that range from crumpling old papers to letters from the beginning of time. We have a John Adams letter. We have 2 indentures on vellum. One is George II, one is George III. The oldest book in the library is 1608, and the name of it is Panarion. I believe the only explanation I can get for it is it came over with the first Dutch settlers in New Brunswick. It actually predates the establishment of the city. I am trying to fill in the gaps on local history, both in terms of the African American community, which was a big part of Rutgers, New Brunswick at one point, but you never know it from the archive. And the current flavor of the Hispanic community, the LGBT, but I seem to be sending most over to Rutgers. So there are letters, there are business records from different establishments that have existed here. We have huge numbers of pictures. In fact, the dean and one of the professors over at Mason Gross have used us extensively for a book that they just completed, both for pictures and information. Now, Rutgers has some of the same stuff. It isn't quite the same, and their collecting mission is much broader than ours, and we don't have classes to support. But we do have a very good collection of local history. Also, for those of you who don't know the difference, we use the term archive kind of loosely. A real archive is the history of the institution, and we do have that. We have the institutional history back to at least 1796, because I have books and papers from that period. But a special collection is the wider mission of collecting that isn't the institutional, and in this case, local history. So we have both of those. With that, I do a lot of programming and outreach and inviting people to give me things, which lately they have been, and I have nobody to process them. So I'm being buried in things.
That's what I was curious. So does the library actively buy things, or is it more donations?
It's all donations.
Okay.
There is no money to collect.
Gotcha.
It's a miracle ours is good as it is. We have people like to give us things, and I'm finding, histories of families that have lived here back to the colonial period. Coming forward, they live in California, but somehow they found out that we wanted things. And whenever I have a program, I tell people I want your old letters and things that you may be throwing in the garbage, because those are very important documents. To give you an example, I guess around the late 1800s, there was a local young man who wanted to become a dentist. In order to become a dentist, he went to South America, and I have his letters home, and they're very interesting. Anna McCoy used to live here and teach in the New Brunswick school system, and was very involved in the women's suffrage movement, and has these letters from all kinds of people, political people, women in the movement who are notable. So things like that are the things that people usually throw out. They don't think twice about it. And I'm really glad to have them. So that's how we collect. We have no money for it. And if you think the city's ever going to give us an extra dime, that is so wrong.
Is there a New Brunswick Historical Society?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's also an historical commission.
Okay.
The Historical Society has maybe 5 members under 80. I'm the treasurer, I think. I'm not really sure. The commission is run by the city, and they have dual roles. They're not competing, but the Historical Society is more independent. The Historical Commission is not, and you may know that the city has had controversial things going on for many, many years. And I think having an historical society that isn't too connected to things political is a very good idea, because they can talk about things that are not, that do not make the city happy. We wouldn't want our funding cut for the wrong reason.
I'm sorry. No. Online, Carrie's asking, if you're interested in being an archivist, how do you get experience? What classes and skills should we be learning?
Well, that's interesting. In fact, I will have to ask you. My understanding is that there's not a preservation class this spring, but there is a theoretical history of the book course.
There's also an introduction to archives that's being offered for the first time. Maria Del Bello is teaching it. So, but it's the first time that she's doing that. So the regular archives course and the preservation course will be in the fall this year. Okay. But we will be offering them.
Good. I've been pushing for more archives classes here. It's not the easiest thing, but a lot of what I've learned has been through chasing down the people who can teach a course, including Tom Fruciano, who taught 2 of the courses that I took, maybe 3. Modifying my own class, I took independent study with Dan O'Connor for collection work, and I turned it into how to collect for archives. But I think the greatest thing is, aside from working in the archive and literally facing the problems, there are assorted organizations. The 2 most local organizations that you will be able to get the kind of information and skills that you want are NJLA, the History and Preservation section, which you should look into, and we're planning some good sessions for Atlantic City this year, and MARIC, which is the Mid-Atlantic Regional Archives Conference, and they teach basically the same things that the Society for American Archivists teach, which is a good organization, but they're usually too far away and too expensive for students. Both of those entities are good ways for you to take workshops or go to symposium. The other thing you can do, and sometimes inexpensive, sometimes very expensive, CCAHA, let me see if I can get all those letters together correctly. Conservation Center for Art and Historical Artifacts. They're in Philadelphia. They're a wonderful place. For instance, on Friday, there will be a symposium and workshop on rights, copyright rights and issues. I think the title is something like "What Can Go Wrong" or "If Something Goes Wrong," and these are things that affect you in archives. So you're parsing out little pieces to take courses. With MARIC, they also have student scholarships to go to the MARIC meetings, and we will be having one in 2017 in Newark. Yes, and the next one in the spring is Pittsburgh, and I can't remember where the one in between is. They have scholarships not just to help you go to the meetings, but they also sent me on scholarship to the Preservation Management Institute at NARA, which it was phenomenal. It's 2 weeks in Washington at NARA, and they just buzzsaw through piles of things that are really relevant. And I think that's very expensive if you don't have a scholarship, but with a scholarship it's almost affordable. But that also gives you a very broad, intense view of how to operate an archive. Other than that, you just talk to people all the time. Archivists are friendly, even if they're a little weird. I'm speaking for myself.
And all librarians are a little weird and friendly.
Well, there are a few that really go over the top. I like them, but they could scare somebody. But I think, trying to volunteer or to expose yourself somehow to some of the activities. And I actually, you think, oh, well, I'm going to be a librarian, I don't need to deal with archives. Wrong, you do. Anytime you're in a library, people come in and ask you questions like how to do genealogy. And that really is very relevant to archives. We have piles of that information in both places. They want to know about the house that they lived in as a child, and do you have a picture? And you need to know how to find out the information, tax maps, Sanborn maps, all these other things. It isn't quite as straightforward as reference. And as Kay said, there are some classes here, but I think you have to beat down the walls. This program doesn't address archives very, very directly. It's sort of a side thing that, but if you ever get a chance, Paul Glassman during the summer teaches courses in art librarianship, library construction, and a bunch of other things that touch on those that are actually very useful, and they help you to see another side of libraries. I also find that more and more libraries are becoming interested. They don't necessarily call them archives, but they call them local history collections, which is archival, and you need to know things about how they should be presented. I learned a lot by going up to an SAA workshop at Yale, which nearly killed me financially. And it was on manuscript cataloging. And probably all of you have taken cataloging courses. Oh, good. Well, they don't teach you much about manuscripts. They teach you books. Right. So here you are in an archive with this piece of paper, and you have absolutely no idea what to do with it. I couldn't find one on that, so I went for manuscripts, and they were dealing mostly with medieval manuscripts up there. But what they were doing was very relevant, and I was able to adapt it for our cataloger, who was terrified of, the stuff I was handing her. So I don't know what else to tell you.
I was curious, do you get to digitize a lot of materials at New Brunswick in the archive?
Yeah, we do. Two things. One, we scan pictures until, we have a resource that not many collegiate libraries would have, and that is the people who get DWIs who have to do community service. They do a lot of scanning for us.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Endless source.
Interesting way of getting a workforce.
Oh, yeah. The people.
So if you can't get a job as, someone digitizing, go to jail, and then hopefully you get assigned to,
Well, you don't get paid in the library. You get volunteer.
We get experience, though, right? So.
Oh, I'll take you. You don't have to do a DWI and have insurance go up. Oh, no. We just did a massive, we're always doing some projects on digitization. The one that was just completed about last week was actually the Mason Gross people had discovered someone in Metuchen who had 13 binders of slides of pictures of New Brunswick over the years. So those were all done by our DWI people.
Is that grant funded, all those kinds of projects?
No, absolutely no money involved whatsoever. We do a lot of grant work. In fact, that's how I get supplies to a certain extent. When we're doing a project, for instance, every February we work with the New Brunswick African American Heritage Committee, and they use the months to put up an exhibit. The year before this, it was for last February, we had a grant with the Crossroads Theater and Johnson & Johnson to do something on the history of the Crossroads Theater. So we had a volunteer curator from the African American group, and we had a bunch of other people from the library and not from the library, and we cobbled together from our own records and history and the Crossroads, which were not in very good order, I must say. They were in better order after we finished. An exhibition that included, it was at least 180 pictures, plus the captions and the explanation and a program to go with it. And it was funded by Johnson & Johnson and the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission, who gives us an awful lot of money, at least two to four grants a year. And grant money is used not to pay people most of the time. We might include a stipend for a speaker, but most of it is spent on materials so that we can map things and scan things and put things together, because materials are very expensive and there's nothing in the library budget for it. We have grants from ALA to do major projects. They usually have traveling exhibits. And let's see, the last one, big one I did was on Lincoln. And it was first of all, the library wants to make it relevant to the community, but our particular patrons are not necessarily very academic. So we ended up having the central thing be the exhibit on Lincoln, but then all around that we use the archives to create an exhibit on things like slavery in the North, what New Brunswick was like during the Civil War period, what the soldiers were doing, who the soldiers were, because we have carte de visite and cannonballs and swords and hats and all sorts of things. That's a very loud crunch.
This pizza's like over an inch thick. Sorry, but delicious.
I'm glad it's delicious. You'll never eat again. So we do a lot of grant work, and grants. Kay teaches a grant course, but the real way to learn about grants is to do them. And when you fail, you take note and learn what you did wrong. Some granting agencies will give you feedback and some won't. And some of them will work with you if they don't like what you've done. They'll tell you, fix this, or we won't pay for that, figure out something else. Is the main thing that you're concerned with trying to get experience?
I guess. I'm on my second archives internship.
Okay, where are you doing it?
I'm working at the American Jewish Historical Society.
In New York?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, as a photograph archive intern.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been going well, but they're super busy with all their events. They just had a big event last week, so I was helping with that.
Yeah. Well, digitization is a big thing right now in both libraries and archives. And it is a very good thing because it means that people in California can see what you have, and it works as a preservation vehicle too, because you don't want people handling fragile materials. So having it online where people can look at it is good. And you have to work out how to bring it up. I'm sure that Isaiah will talk to you about the New Jersey Digital Highway. And Sam is, I guess, doing an internship, but the public library has its own stuff on the New Jersey Digital Highway, and she'll be doing some scanning for us on that. And there are pros and cons to each kind of thing you do. But we also have a website embedded in our regular website that we use to put up different collections. And in fact, I offer that to people who are doing internships for us. If they do a collection and they finish a finding aid, they can put it up with their name on it and point to it and say, yeah, I did that. It's a good thing. Also, it just helps us. For instance, one of the things the library has that's very, very good, the librarians of old every day would take down the births, deaths, and marriages of everybody in the newspaper in New Brunswick. And so we ended up with file cards in the old catalog. drawers. Oh, thousands of them. And they're very useful to people, but they weren't very easy to deal with for a librarian who doesn't have the time to get down to the basement and go like this through hundreds and hundreds of these things looking for someone. So one of the things we're doing with our DWI people and others is having them record it into an Access database so that it's searchable for us. And that's one form of making things easier through digitization for archives. There are a lot of things like that. And it's worth going to some of these workshops and reading some of the material to find out what can be done and what works for people. And God knows microfiche will always follow us. We have acres of the local newspaper on microfilm, and every year we do more and more of that because it's actually very useful. People come in all the time. They use the microfilm machine relentlessly to find articles and things like that. And someone once pointed out that it's the gold standard on preservation because even if the world goes back to, I don't know, living out of caves, you can still hold them up and see them through a candle, so you never lose the information. I'm sure it would be the first thing on my mind after a nuclear holocaust. Well,
Carrie was just wondering, do you have an email address that can be reached at to learn more about that internship and any follow-up questions? EKAD,
as in David, what is it? 1947 at this is all lowercase, lmxac.org. And that stands for Libraries of Middlesex County.
So that's EKAD, 1947?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You found me, huh?
Great.
And you can always just call the library and leave me a message, especially if my, one of the things about the computer system at the library is we're dependent on what the state offers us. The broadband isn't a lot. And every once in a while I get jammed up and everything goes kaflooey because it's bouncing things back. So if that happens to you, just call. It's much easier. I don't know. Is there anything else?
I was wondering, are you able to tell if people outside of New Brunswick access your digitized material?
No, I have absolutely no idea.
Okay,
unless I get a question or somebody calls me about something. And things like that do happen. We had up, the Henry Guest House lives next to the library. It's part of our campus, if you will. It's one of the oldest houses in New Brunswick, and he was very famous, a friend of John Adams and Benjamin Franklin and Lafayette and everybody else under the sun. So one of the interns put up a history of Henry Guest on the site. Eventually a descendant noticed it and told me some of the information was wrong. So I know people are looking at it. Wow. We are searchable. And it led to a very interesting bit of investigation to find out what was true and what isn't. Because just because somebody calls in and says it isn't right, even if they are a descendant, you really need to be sure that the information is correct. She was sort of correct, not 100%, but it was good. So yes, I do know that people are, but not because I have any way of monitoring that or even want to monitor that. That's just too time consuming for me. And you might say, well, how do you know what to do? Most of the time, people are asking questions about things in the permanent. Oh, you don't want to bite it again.
No, I'm waiting for it.
She reaches for it, pulls back. No, I'm not doing that again. People are always asking questions, so you know where things are leading. It became clear to me, for instance, that the African American collection was lacking because I was working with the African American community and they wanted to put up an exhibit, and I look and there's next to nothing. which seemed pretty weird. So it's usually patron questions that lead what I do to a certain extent, rather than me just guessing. Oh, I'm going to try that though, once in a while. Anything I can think of in there? No, that's about it. I can't think of anything else to tell you, other than if you find something that you're interested in and you don't quite know how to get to it, give me a call. I might have had to deal with it. Whether it's trying to figure out how to get an independent study, which is not always easy, or I think what we did with getting Tom to teach a class at one point was 6 of us got together and roped him, basically. And I don't. She said that Maria was teaching an introductory archives class. I don't know if any of you seen what will be in it.
It's a special topics class. I think it's supposed to be more current. I don't remember the full title.
The current topics in archives and preservation?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be more current instead of like the foundation of archives. So I think it's a little different spin on it, because it's not the manuscript and archives class, which I think they're planning on offering in the fall.
Yeah,
because they offer that concurrently with preservation of archival materials, which Rebecca Holt taught last
I
year.
don't know who it is.
She works at NYPL as well.
Oh, she must work with Evelyn, because Evelyn is someone who I think founded the PMI Institute here, and I think she's been delivering people to teach.
Rebecca was wonderful. I didn't actually take the class.
No, she was good.
Long story, but yeah, she.
You took it?
Yeah.
I was there on the first day.
What did she teach?
It was pretty. She covered a lot of stuff. We didn't do any actual. It was mostly theoretical in the sense that we weren't actually doing any preservation.
You weren't allowed to touch it.
Yeah. It was good. I enjoyed it. Each had a student write a sort of a mock grant and do like a collection preservation analysis.
Did she have you do disaster analysis?
Yeah, that's not
that
a
was
disaster
the
plan.
Yeah.
They were good projects.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have to run.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sign-in sheet, Will. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay,
I got all
excellent.
I don't understand.
That's how you get. Oh yeah, you can just leave that there. Yeah.
Yeah, take the pizza.
Yeah. I usually wind up giving it away actually if I don't. Yeah. So go away. I give it away. No, to the sometimes circulation staff downstairs. I'll just say, here you go. You guys want this?
You just leave it out there. So
yeah. Somebody will grab it.
Well, where are you all in your courses? And
graduating in May.
Preach.
Close to being done. I think I have like one class in 503 next semester. Like for some reason was very motivated to getting to take as much class.
That's awesome.
Well, did you take Dan's, I don't know, I don't remember what the name of it is, but you do a lot of Excel work in it.
The Infotech class?
Or evaluating library services?
Yeah, Dan, it might have, I don't know.
I took one with him about evaluating services where we did a lot of Excel data analysis. It was really good.
His classes have been among the most useful that I've had. That and a research, what was it? Methods of research.
They never offer that.
They canceled it. Last spring I was in it and they canceled it.
Yeah, they seem to cycle through certain classes.
Yeah.
Are they teaching?
I think a lot of it probably has
I think
to do
next
with
semester it might be back on.
You end up taking that.
There's
I locked out of problem solving with data.
Oh no.
It filled up within the first hour.
It sounded really good. I'm graduating in a month, but if I wasn't, that was the class.
It filled up.
It's because there's a big demand to learn.
Because this semester I go into classes I'm taking is Rutgers management, because a lot of times it's
which is weird.
kind of like a sister in a way to archives.
Well, that's what you're teaching in class.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll
so
some people want the skills.
Some of the things I like